Hello everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome to a new playthrough on the channel. After our adventures in our hockey demo weekend yesterday, we're actually commemorating a very important date in history, as today, back in 1941, Nazi Germany invaded the Soviet Union to start Operation Barbarossa. To commemorate the occasion, we are going to play Storm of Steel, Ju-87 Stuka by Compass Games. Just like it sounds, we're in charge of a German air squadron of Stukas in missions on the Eastern Front of World War II. So we're still doing a little bit of setup here, but it looks like there's some stuff that's going to have to be done on camera, so we're going to see how this all works out. And I've got all of my notes here, so I can do everything. Normally I like to do setup off camera the previous night, but in this case we've not been able to do that. We see that the board is very busy, but there are some of our more frequently referenced tables on here. So we're going to try to get this all set up. So the first thing we need to do is roll for a mission on table A1. So table A1 is this table, which means we'll be rolling 3d6. We'll be rolling 2 white for the mission type, and we're starting at June to July 1941. And then we roll the black, and then we'll roll a black d6 for the color. So we'll bring the dice tower for the zone. So we'll bring the dice tower and shot, and find my pen, which is right here. Put the mission log up there, and we'll roll for our first mission. Okay, so that is a 2, which means we have a rail target that we're going after, and because of the black d6, we're in zone 6. So 1, mission type is rail. I'll grab our target zone, target aircraft. There has to be a target. I thought there was a target rail in here. Theoretically, there should be a target rail chit in here, because one of the things they specifically say to do in setup is place the mission counter on the zone number. So now we got to go digging for that. Those look like DRMs. Oh, here we go, mission chits. So we'll see about finding a rail chit in here. Ah, here we go. Oh, that's one other thing I was wondering about, because one of the other gripes I was having was a lot of the tables reference small, medium, and large targets. And one of the hard things I was trying to figure out, let me see if I can get this to focus. This is not wanting to focus for me. Well, it looks like you can see it anyway. So it looks like it's on the mission chit, where you can see the size of it. So a rail is a small target. I was getting a little bit irritated with the rule book because it wasn't telling me that, but that actually makes a lot of sense that it's actually on the chit itself. Okay. So we did that, place the aircraft cards, select the crew for each, and select the flight leader. So given that we're going after a small target, well, more of the concern here is that I'm learning the game rather than necessarily going for historical accuracy or our first mission. So I think we're going to take 3 pilots out on this one. So we'll call this 622, 622, 622. So we've got our 3 Mephistophel or a kettle counter, or a keta counter. My German pronunciation is going to be absolutely horrendous, so you'll have to bear with me on that. But I'm going to pull out, we're going to go with 3 Ju-87Ds. So we'll use three planes here. So that will be a Keta, and that will go in the airfield for the time being. Okay, select crew for each and a flight leader. Alright, so our crew, we'll see if we can find some German names I can actually pronounce. Let's see, so we'll go with Braun as the pilot in our first plane, and Stimple will be our gunner. So Braun as pilot, Stimple as our gunner. Then in plane 2, we're going to have Lang and Steiner. Lang will be our pilot, and Steiner will be our gunner. And yes, I know the board isn't completely flat. Nothing I can do about that. Then in 3, we will have Koch as our... that's not a name I can pronounce. Koch as our pilot, and Rouse as our gunner. So we'll set it up like that. And then one of them is going to be our flight leader. I'm actually going to say, we'll actually designate plane 1 as our flight leader. So we'll make that flight leader. Okay, place numbered counters for each selected aircraft into an opaque cup. Now, this is one thing I'm kind of hesitant on, especially since we're putting 3 planes into a cup. So I'll find our three planes, and there we are. We've got our opaque cup there. We'll give that a quick rattle just to mix it up, and we'll put that to the side for the time being. Okay, select mission payload. Select mission payload next. So we're on table 4. We're on rule 4.4. These can actually get bagged up. I'm bagging up the rest of the pilots, by the way. Okay, pilots are all bagged up, so the next thing we're doing is finding my pen. And we are, again, we're selecting our mission payload. So we're looking at rule 4.4, which is our ordnance, and table A3, which A3, okay. So that's our ordnance. Okay, so on our small target, so it looks like we probably want to mitigate the damage here as best we can. So is there a separate counter for the, let's see, mission payload? So our available loadouts that we've got here, we could either have an SC-500 on the center fuselage and 4 SC-50 bombs. Provides a -1 die roll modifier, and provides a -2 die roll modifier accuracy when attacking troops and artillery targets. I think we'll go with the SC-500. Yeah, we'll go with the SC-500 and the 4 cluster bombs. That way we don't have the. That way we don't have our accuracy. That way we don't have an accuracy penalty. That's where I'm trying to go with that. Is there a chit to mark off the loadout? There probably is. I just need to go digging for it in this mess. Yeah, I definitely need to do more organizing with this if I think this is getting to the table again. But that's part of why I'm putting it on the channel today, is to find out if I want to do more with this game. I'm already preparing my yearly Noble Knight run to see what games are eventually going to get culled toward the end of the year. Let's see. And I still can't find a mark for... I still can't find that shit that I'm after. I'll just use one of these. I'm sure there's one in here, but I'm not finding it, so I'm not going to go digging too hard for it. So we'll go with that layout. Or that loadout, I should say. Okay. Place the Stoffel, which I've already placed our Keta counter on the airfield. Shuffle and place the event cards, which I did, and I was entering events as I went. Rail small. Rail small. Actually, I wonder. Probably going to have to use a couple of mission logs here. But I think we are just about all set to get into this mission. So there was a little bit more overhead than I think I was expecting when I was starting to set up. Oh, looks like there's a flying circle up there. So that's where our STG counter goes in the middle of that. So we'll take this group, we'll put that up there. Okay, so it looks like we're all ready to go. We've got our loadout. Okay. So now we're on our flight to the target. So we move our Keta counter into zone 1. It's probably a little bit hard to see, but I'm all the way up here. And the board's very busy. So unless the target is in zone 1, which it's not, so we're drawing an event card. And here we find Hawkeye. Randomly select an aircraft and provide an additional -1 DRM on one bombing or attack run. On the 6th of October 1943, the most powerful flotilla in the Black Sea compromising Leningrad-class destroyers were sunk. So a -1 die roll modifier. That's probably good. So we'll go into our cup. Actually, judging that by how it's highlighted in red, that's probably bad. So we'll go into our cup, where we put our planes, and we'll pull one out. And we find that plane 1 has a -1 die roll modifier. Okay. So actually what we can do here is we'll just put zeros on there for the time being. Okay. So our next thing we have to do is roll for interception. Is that individual interception roll, or let's see, roll on table, roll D10 on draw and resolve an event card, which we did. Okay, roll a D10 for the encounter. Looks like that is... Okay, so roll a D10 on B1 for the encounter, which that is up here, and we've got a table. We've got another table, B2 Luftwaffe Escort, which I'm trying to find. Okay, so I've got my fighter intercept table and the Luftwaffe Escort table. So we're in zone 1, which means we've got full cover. So we'll roll a D10 for our encounter. That's a 1, so we've got no contact. That's fortunate, so we move up to zone 2, and our event here. Stukas to the rescue. One of your gunners spots an encircled German infantry unit. You may either ignore, continue to the target zone and apply +1 CS to random crew, or help. Cancel the current mission and attack troops in the current zone. Don't roll for aircraft fire. So theoretically, we could end the mission here and apply +1 CS. Let me see if I can find out what CS actually is. Crew stress. So we apply okay, so that's crew stress. Or, so I guess it's kind of a thematic of who found the gunner, or who found the crew, but decided to ignore it. I think I do want to go through a full mission, so I think we're going to ignore that, and then we'll apply a crew stress. The flavor text, reminiscent of early years, In February of 1945, 2,000 vehicles and 51 tanks were lost to German attacks by Ju-87s. So we're going to pick this to apply a +1 crew stress. And that will be plane 3 getting a +1 crew stress. Let's see, +1 crew stress. Let's see here. There's not a way to track crew stress on here, is there? Looks like that's a gunner to take a random crew. Okay. So now we'll roll for Luftwaffe escort. So we have to roll a D6 in addition to the D10 to see if we have an encounter. So let's see what we get here. All right, that's a 5 on the D10, which is no contact. 5 would have been a... If D10 activates a contact, roll a D6 on B2 and check the zone where the Staffel is to determine the level of friendly cover. Red number indicates the number of enemy fighters to be removed. Place remaining enemy fighters and attacking aircraft on playmat to resolve. So the enemy aircraft... Let's see, that is probably right here in the flying circle, it looks like. So nothing happening there from the looks of it. All right, that brings us up to, actually, I'm going to leave the dice tower down here, I think. Then we'll go to Zone 3, flip an event card, and here we'll find Return to Base. Randomly select one aircraft to return to base immediately and resolve a landing roll. Removed from the deck from Operation Citadel. During World War II, Junkers delivered a total of 5,126 Ju-87s. Yowza. Okay, so we're pulling a random plane to return to base immediately. Somebody must have gotten called back. And uh-oh, that's our flight leader that's being called back to base. So now we're going to have to designate a new flight leader, probably. Well, let's roll a landing roll. And here's our landing table. So we're on landing table C5. So we don't have any kind of modifiers here, so we just want to see a 1 to 9. Which that's a 6, so that's a safe landing. Okay. Safe landing. So crew 1 is out of the mission. Which means I will flip that. Yeah. We're going to designate number 2 as our flight leader. So actually that's probably good because a -1 is now out of the mission. So now in Zone 3, our other 2 Stukas will go for their encounter. That's a 10, which is a MiG-3. But in Zone 3, on a 1 to 4, which that's a 1, we remove both of those fighters, so we're all clear there. Moving up to Zone 4 for a fresh event, here we will find good intel. Remove 1 crew stress from any 2 pilots. Actually... Oh, well, technically, we'll just say this crew stress was gone because apparently it's supposed to be randomly determined. Okay, now we roll for our encounter in Zone 4. That's a 1, which is no contact. Moving up to Zone 5 for our next event. Here we'll find Tailwind. Move Staffel to the next zone. Do not roll for intercept. And we've got flavor text on good intel. Oberleutnant Karl Föhring of STG-77 was the first Stuka pilot shot down on the Russian front. Rather unfortunate. So Staffel moves to the next zone. Don't roll for intercept. From December 13th to the 22nd, Stuka's destroyed 420 vehicles and 23 tanks of the Soviet army. So we move straight to Zone 6, and now we've got our bombing run. So we don't draw an event card, and we don't check for interception. Rolling for target visibility on table A4. That is a D6 roll. A 2 is good visibility. So visibility here. There should be a chit for that. Oh, it's up here. So that's good visibility. Next we roll for anti-air intensity. That's a D10 roll. So actually we're going to be making 2 rolls. It looks like the intensity of it and then a roll for the reroll June to July 1941. Alright, so we roll for the intensity of the anti-air. 5 says we have medium anti-air. Okay. Let's see if we can get that explained here a little bit better. Roll 1d6. Roll for damage on selected aircraft on table C1. So for selected, so how do we select the... Roll a roll a D10 on table A6 anti-air. Which we did that. Place in the appropriate medium box. Roll for damage on selected aircraft. So how do we select the aircraft that's taking damage? Explained on 710. Okay. Let's see, so 710. Aircraft damage is determined by the result of a damage roll. Okay, let's... Actually, let me see if there's a little better... Roll for damage on selected aircraft. That's still... I'm still not explaining that completely clearly, I don't think. So... Looks like... Roll a D10 and a D6. Do we just roll for that on each of them? Because that's not coming through completely clear on the anti-air part. So that's what I'm trying to find out here. Aircraft damage is determined. Okay, so on the attack run... Okay, so roll a D10 on that. Roll for damage on the randomly selected... So how do we randomly select which plane is under... Oh, okay, so no. Must be conducted before the first run begins. That's a mission abort, which we're not doing that. Let's see. Aircraft damage is determined yada yada yada. Each attack, whether hit by intercepting fighters or anti-air. So do we just roll on each of them? This still isn't explaining how you select the planes. Aircraft damage, yada yada yada. Because it says selected, it's saying selected planes, but it's not explaining repeat steps. Okay, so place it there, roll for damage on selected aircraft. Okay, looks like starting with your flight leader or the aircraft in position 1, proceed in numerical order. So it looks like we roll for damage on everybody. So it looks like the D10 on C1 determines the location, and then the D6 determines what else happens. Right? With a ×2. Still not completely explaining that, by the way. Let's see, anti-air to assess and apply damage. And once on the check table A6. Draw the number of indicated chits from the opaque container. Okay. So now that's explaining. So we draw from the... So actually, since we have medium air... Okay, that makes more sense. We have medium anti-air. We've got our two planes. So we've got both 2. So we've got both 2 and 3 being targeted for anti-air. So we have to roll for each of those. Okay, then I'm going to make a note of that. So roll for anti-air. Okay, so because it's medium, we attack 2. Just making some notes here. Okay, that makes more sense. So we have to roll for each plane. So we're going to roll for plane 2 first. All right, so a 1 is adding +1 crew stress, and a 3 is +1 crew stress. Okay, so that's going to... So I guess we also have to determine which crew that's going on. Odds it's going on the pilot, evens on the gunner. That's odds, so it's going on the pilot. So the pilot for that plane takes a crew stress. Oop. Then for the other plane, so we'll start off with these two. All right, a 2 is an engine hit +2 crew stress. Right. Place 1 damage marker on the system or aircraft. Okay. So we put a damage on the... So what did we say? A damage on the engine and +2 crew stress. And we'll put the 2 crew stress. Evens, this time it's going to go on the gunner. Just getting my counters out here. So a damage on, so what did we say? Damage on the engine. Where is the engine? Oh, there it is. And +2 crew stress on the gunner. Okay, so now we're rolling on the... Now where's our actual attack run result? Okay, so now we roll for the bombing run. Calculate the dice roll modifiers and record for each aircraft with the DRM counter. So we've got target visibility is good, so we've got no modifier there. Then we add our ordnance. We took that because it only provides... We took the SC-500 and the cluster bombs because it only provides a... Actually, it does provide a -1 dice roll modifier over a small target. Oh, that I think that's why... Wait, what? No, we took the 50 cluster bombs. So that's a no-roll modifier for plane 2. Then a crew stress adjustment. Because we've got a +2 on... Actually, we roll for crew stress effects. So probably we have to roll twice for... Wait. Hold on. This still isn't making... Okay. Let's see. So bomb attack results roll tables A3, A4, and C2. Okay, so we've got 0 dice roll modifiers on all of those, and then we've got a crew stress on the pilot, which one... that's not a roll, is it? Crew stress adjustment, table C2. That... Let's see if that's explained in the rule book. Crew stress is a game mechanic as they relate to combat, okay? Stress may be added for aircraft damage, yada, yada, yada. Any hits taken is noticed up to a total of 6. Okay. So it looks like it's a okay, so for the pilot, there's no effect. So there's no effect on the crew stress there. Crew quality, we don't have any crew quality there. So we've got a no dice roll modifier, and we're rolling on our bombing run table, which is bombing accuracy right here, it's a D10 roll. So bomber number 2 rolls a 9. It's hidden in there. Bomber 9. So actually, number 9, bomber 2 missed the target. Okay, and that's problematic. So he misses. And we'll roll for pilot, for bomber, for 3. The gunner's got 2 stress. We've got a +1 die roll modifier for bombing. So he's got a +1. So yeah, it looks like lower rolls are good. 5 + 1 is 6. So on a small target, a 6 is good for 40% accuracy rate. And I need to see if I can find a chit to mark that. I think I will just use the target aircraft for that. Okay. Oh, mission ordnance. There is a counter. There's a chit to track that. So that's a 40% bomb rate. Okay, record damage with score marker. So 040. So now we're turning around and heading our happy selves back home. So in zone 5, first we draw for an event, and here we find lead from the front. Inspired by the flight leader, remove 1 crew stress from 2 flying crews. The pilot dove in at 90 degrees to make a successful attack. The pilot pulled out from on that attack and fell unconscious. So we remove 1 crew stress from 2 flying crews. We'll take the crew stress off the pilot on plane 2 and from the gunner on plane 3. There's that, and now we roll for interception, which I've got that right here. So we're in zone 5. This is 4, which is no contact. Zone 4 for our event. Lost Kameraden. The loss of an old Kameraden weighs heavy. Randomly assign 1 crew stress. By the 31st of January 1945 and the Soviet drive toward Berlin, only 104 Ju-87s remained operational with their unit. So first we'll pick out which plane is affected. And I'm going to leave pilot plane 1 out because they had to bail early on the mission. And plane 3 is going to end up with that stress. And evens is going to back to the gunner. So we've got 2 stress. Two stress on the gunner. And we roll for interception once again. A 1 is no contact once again. Zone 3, we pull our card, and here we find an ace. Your Staffel recognizes a famous Luftwaffe ace flying in your vicinity. Remove 2 stress from any crew member flying Staffel or Ketta. Rudel was the only recipient of the Knight's Cross of the Iron Cross with golden oak leaves, swords, and diamonds. Wow, sounds really good. Removing 2 crew stress, we'll take that off the gunner on plane 3. Then we're rolling for interception. This time it's a 7, no contact. And the 3 in zone 3 would have meant we were removing 2 fighters anyway. Zone 2, and here we find waypoint reached. The Staffel has reached a waypoint without incident, no effect. Stuka ace Hans Ulrich Rudel was credited with 51 aerial victories, 42 of which were fighter aircraft and 7 Ilyushin IL-2s. Then we're rolling for intercept here. A 7 is no contact, and in zone 2 we would have had full cover anyway. Zone 1, Here we find Angel Wings. Do not roll for fighter intercept in this zone. At the end of Barbarossa, STG-1 had lost 60 Stukas, STG-2 lost 39, and STG-77 lost 29. Okay, and we don't roll for fighter intercept, so we're back in the airfield, and now we have to have each craft roll for landing. So we've got a minus. So I don't think we have any kind of modifiers on here. So that was a miss. And the other one had a 40%. All right, actually for landing I need the D10. Right? Yes. Okay. Do we have any effects from crew stress? We don't. We actually don't have any crew stress to speak of. So let's see what happens with plane 2. 9 is a safe landing. On to plane 3. That's a 10. Uh-oh. They've got a forced landing, so you see C6. Okay. So now we have to see what happens on the forced landing. That's a 3, damaged, 3 aircraft or crew timer, or repair timer, crew okay. So we end up surviving that, and now we're in post-mission where we'll total up the score. Total all scores for the aircraft that returned to the airfield. There's probably a post-mortem here. Here we are. Scoring modifier on the mission. Aircraft and crew returned to base with no more than 1 casualty and damage to no more than 1 aircraft, which we only had damage to 1. So on the mission, we actually score 4 points. Let's see. Okay, and I think that will do it for this playthrough of Storm of Steel. I'm not sure how I exactly feel about this one. This seems like a weird game. This seems like a weird game to me, and I'm not entirely sure how I'm feeling about it. My initial reaction isn't good. Let's put it that way. But oh wait, so we score that at okay, removing crew stress. Yeah. Okay, so like I said, I'm not quite bouncing off of this one yet in terms of this game's leaving my collection, but I'm not completely happy with it either, and the rule book to me seemed more help or more hindrance than help, especially when I needed a few things explained because some of these weren't making sense. So I'm going to take a little bit of time to think. Fortunately, my Noble Knight run isn't until December, so it's at least safe for the time being, but I don't know. I may put this on the channel one more time just to see if I can make better heads or tails of it. But so far my initial reaction is I'm kind of hesitating on doing more with this one. But again, I've got time to think about that. So let's go ahead and wrap this video up. We've got a lot of great stuff coming up on the channel. There will be at least one more game coming on the channel later there will be at least one more game coming on the channel later today. But I'm going to hold those close to the vest. As for what's scheduled on the channel, Metal Gear Mondays will continue on Monday as we play Metal Gear Solid the board game from CMON, and Psycho Mantis is waiting for us. Wednesday we're playing Marvel Champions, and Saturday Mystical Munchies will conclude Out of the World of Warcraft New Flavors of Azeroth cookbook as we make the dessert, Bolara's Nutter Bar. Thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care everyone.